All right, I have officially started the recording, and of course, 2 seconds in, Andrea plays a duck noise. Thanks, Andrea.
Classic, classic.
Our favorite
Yo,
favorite developer, Andrea, is here.
what's up?
Not much. What's up with you?
Super happy to have you on hosting office hours, Jacob.
I'm sure you are.
I wanted to express my happiness with duck noises.
Thanks so much. Welcome in, TY, A Nazir, LJ Crypto, Design Panda, Andrew from Mindtricks. All people I know, welcome, welcome.
Right, Jacob, do you want to wait a little longer? Should we kick it off? What are you thinking?
I'd say let's give it like another 30 seconds or so. And then we can kick things off. Oh, hey, Austin.
How's it going?
It's going pretty well. Thanks for joining.
Got to hear what the great Jacob's got to say.
I'm sure you already know it all, but either way.
The great Jacob. There must be another Jacob joining there.
Yeah, that hurts Luke to hear. Thanks, Andrea.
Your keyboard noise, that's great.
It's a golf clap. How am I the only one using these soundboards? They're so tempting.
I don't know. I always get spammed with them in the other Discord, but
Oh, okay.
here people seem to be more respectful.
Okay, then let's not give anyone ideas.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, you see you done. Oh Jesus.
You're welcome.
All right, I
Alright,
think this is
you've
good.
got a good turnout, Jacob.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick it off. Like, good.
Yeah, sweet.
Okay, Andrea, if you could hold off on the soundboards for a little bit, that'd be appreciated. They go for everyone, but for
I
some
will not
reason,
go for any soundboards anymore, I promise.
Doubt that. I'm so sus. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the community run developer office hours. This is kind of the first one we're doing, led and co hosted and very much planned by Jacob Tucker. If you don't know him, he's the MLC DAO founder. He does a bunch of content. He runs Caden Boots camps, but I think we all know him. However, if you don't, I would definitely recommend reaching out to him and saying, hi, super friendly guy. The idea here with these developer office hours is to just get developers together to talk about their non-flow, ask any questions that people have, and talk different topics. So if you're listening and you're like, I would love to hear the team cover this topic, or you would love to come up and talk about a specific topic, whether it's launching smart contracts on mainnet, whether it's talking in depth about resource-oriented programming or attachments like what Jacob's going to do today, any topic is kind of up for grabs. So really do reach out if you're a developer and you'd love to see something covered, or if you have ideas of something that you want to do. Likewise, even though this is community run, a lot of the core flow team are going to be in here as well, popping in to both ask questions to you guys and also bring topics to discuss. So for today's show, or today's office hours, I should say, we're going to have Jacob Tucker going over attachments. So I'll pass over to him in a minute. But I want to just like sort of lay out the structure so you're all aware. Jacob will spend about 15, 20 minutes talking about attachments. In that time, we'll probably try and make a few jokes that won't be funny, but do laugh so he feels encouraged. If at any point you have questions, you can use the voice chat option, which if you're on desktop, you can just scroll over to where it says developer office hours at the top, and there'll be a little open chat option right next to the voice chat itself. And so you can open chat, ask questions, feel free to tag me or Jacob to help it get seen. Likewise, Jacob will leave the chat, a few minutes depending on how many questions are coming in. So there'll also be an opportunity for people to unmute, ask a question and whatever. If you want to talk midway through and Jacob's talking, you might find that we come in and we serve mute you so you don't interrupt. But by all means, if you have something you want to ask, do feel free to say, hey, wait, Jacob, what's going on? But that being said, if there's random noise, etc., you will get muted and we'll have to unmute you when you need to talk, but do reach out. After Jacob's little 15, 20 minutes of attachments, we're then going to kick it over to a couple of team members that might want to talk about a few different things, but I'll let them sort of explain that when they get to it. And then after that, we're just going to have an open floor for any topics or questions that you as developers, you as community members want to talk about. So if there's something that you want to ask, that would be the best time to do it, unless it's relevant to something that one of the speakers are talking about. Now, I've talked plenty already, and a lot of people probably don't understand me thanks to my accent. So I'm going to kick it over to Jacob. Jacob, mate, how you doing? Take it away.
All right, thanks a lot, Luke. Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining. I'm gonna give, yeah, like Luke was saying, like about like a 15 to 20 minute like little presentation on attachments, which is an upcoming feature to the Cadence language. But before I do that, I just want to say that while I guess like every week I will be doing a little bit of a presentation. I also would love it if if some of you like are listening to me today and are like, oh, you know what, I really want to present my own topic, or I'm working on a cool design pattern in my own project and I want to share that with the community. You're more than welcome to join me or do your own presentation in later weeks. Definitely looking at some of you here. I know that, for example, Austin, very happy to have you here. I think you have amazing things to share. So if anyone is, curious in doing that, just let me know. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here and let's talk attachments. So oh, and also, by the way, while I do this, don't be afraid to unmute your mic or ask questions in chat or whatever it is. This is, in my eyes, a very casual conversation about Cadence topics and not so much a formal presentation. So don't be afraid to chat or whatever. Okay, cool. So attachments are an upcoming feature to the Cadence language. It's not live on mainnet right now, however, it is coming. And so I thought it'd be a great opportunity to share with all of you what exactly it is. So, right now, I guess let me actually start over here. Right now in the Cadence language, when we talk about composability, we have something like this, where let's say this rectangle or this box is an NFT. And, we've seen projects like Doodles, utilize the composability of Cadence where NFTs can own other NFTs, right? Sorry, so let's just put like a bunch of boxes here that each represent different NFTs. And so let's say that this outer box is a doodle. Well, these inner boxes can be like, wearables, right? Little like wearable NFTs. Or if you picture the same example for like Flovatar, the outside box is a Flovatar and the inside boxes are, the things that you can equip your Flovatar with, right? And so we've seen that composability is really built into the Cadence language. However, there are some limitations with this kind of model, right? In this example, the Doodle NFT has to be set up with the ability to have these wearables in the first place, right? There has to be some sort of variable inside the Doodle that allows you to add these wearables at a later point, right? And in addition to that, so that's number one. Number two is that these wearables, like the way that they get equipped, are defined by the project owner, right? So the Doodles team, right, project team has to say, you know what, we're going to allow wearables to be equipped, but we're not going to allow, some other things to be equipped. For example, a float or a flow token or whatever the heck it is. So this is where attachments come in and why attachments are so cool, because unlike this example where you have to predefine the ability to add wearables to a doodle, or have the project team actually allow this ability. Attachments do not are not constrained by those two things, so anyone can define their own attachment, which is basically, when we talk about attachment, it's just like this arrow right here. It's the ability to take some sort of resource or some sort of data and glue it to a existing asset or resource on chain. Um, so what's really awesome about this is I could take, for example, a doodle that already exists out there, right? That I didn't create or I didn't do any, I didn't help create this at all, but I own a doodle, right? And so I can actually deploy my own contract with a pet attachment or an RPG character or a weapon, and I can attach these things or glue these things to my doodle. And so what this means is that if I transfer my doodle to someone else, this attachment goes along with it. So it stays with it even if it's moved around. Now, of course, the owner of that asset has full control over the attachments that are on it. So if I attach a pet to a doodle and then I transfer it to Luke and Luke says, you know what, your pet stinks, I don't want your pet, Luke can then remove the pet and then it's no longer attached to the doodle, right? But the idea is that anyone can sort of define their own attachments and attach them to existing resources. And so I actually went to Twitter a couple days ago and I did a little giveaway where I was asking NBA Top Shot collectors to not only describe how their NFT is represented on chain but also a random idea that they could use with attachments and their NBA Top Shot moments. And so what I actually got back from a lot of people was these two things. People were talking about having their moment NFT and then attaching player signatures to that moment, right? So basically, like let's say I go to a game and I collect this really awesome top shot moment of LeBron dunking on the other team, and then LeBron signs that moment. You can attach that to your moment resource. Or another example that I came up with was, let's say a little sub community spun up where you could, define your own custom jerseys, right? So me and four of my friends make a Discord where, we have these custom jerseys and we attach them to moments that we have, and we give certain voting rights depending on, what type of jersey you have, and if it's a rare jersey or legendary jersey, you get the point, right? So you can make your own sort of system. And I think, before I dive into the code here, I just think it's important to say that I really think that this has incredible ability to allow sub communities or even sub DAOs to spin up around existing assets, and put more or less value depending on what you like, right? What you and your friends or your community values. So this is my brief introduction to attachments just as a concept. And if there's not any questions, I have not been monitoring the chat. Um, Oh, yes. So that's a great question, Jeroen. So Jeroen asks, is it possible to attach an amount of flow tokens to an NFT as well? Yes. So I was talking just in terms of like NFTs, or assets. However, attachments can be used for anything on chain. So this could literally be, flow token. I could attach flow token to my moment, or I could attach some other random piece of data. It doesn't have to just be NFTs. And furthermore, this doesn't even have to be an NFT either. I could actually attach, if we go back to custom jerseys, I could attach custom jerseys to my flow token vault, right? So you can imagine that like these things can get super strange, but also really cool, right? In the amount of flexibility that there is with attachments. Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for bringing that up. Well, I see Bastion actually already answered that too. Thanks, Bastion.
Hi, Jacob. I
Hey,
have another question about this.
sure, yeah, ask.
Yeah. Imagine you have like flow tokens and you attach an NFT to that and you transfer the flow tokens with the attached NFT, but the person on the other side doesn't have the collection that matches with the attached NFT. What would happen? Because right now, if you send an NFT, but the person doesn't have the collection, he cannot receive it.
Yes, that's a very good question. So I will try to explain this in two parts because it's sort of a tough question just because it's a fungible token example. But okay, so
Make
actually
it non-fungible with non-fungible. That's also okay.
yeah, okay, perfect. So let's say we have an NBA Top Shot moment, right? And then we attach let's say a doodle, right? And in this case, what we're gonna say is that okay, so this makes sense so far, right? And when we're gonna transfer this, right, or we're really transferring the moment, but the doodle's attached to it, right? So
Right.
we're gonna transfer the NBA Top Shot moment to you, right? I'm gonna transfer my to you. However, you don't have a doodle collection; you just have a moment. That will work
Yeah.
totally fine because this moment is really what's being stored in the NBA Top Shot collection, and this is really being stored by the moment or attached to the moment. So you don't need a doodle collection. What really matters is this one right here. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, okay. And depends on the contract if you're able to like detach these two NFTs from each other, or are
Yes.
they always like connected?
So it's up to the owner of the NFT. So if you wanted to, if when I transfer this to you, you could withdraw the moment from your collection and then you
Mhm.
could detach the doodle and you could maybe then deposit the doodle to your doodle collection, right? That way it's better managed and for things like Emerald Bot, you could verify it better, you know.
All right. So that's not defined in the contract. So that's like a default way of how this works.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
with
All right. Cool.
attachments comes the ability to one attach them and two
Yeah.
detach them, and we'll talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit in code.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Of course, awesome questions. And yeah, Austin, you're exactly right. The Top Shot collection wouldn't even know that there's a doodles attached. Attachments are really up for for the owner to know that they're there, or if there's like a little community that's spun up around it, they know there's things attached to NFT stuff like that. But yeah, the contract wouldn't know that. Um, So C3PSO says, I will get to that C3B flow, or maybe some team members will get to that after this little example. So there actually are, Austin. There actually are, which is I just found out about that. There's two functions for each attachment, or yeah, right here. So for each attachment. Yeah, yeah. Cool. All right. So let's jump into a code example here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this example where we just have like an NFT, and I'm going to attach an RPG character to it, just to I don't know, just because I think RPG characters are cool. So what I have right now is a very basic contract called RPG, and I've defined a class, which is just like a enumeration that has a warrior, archer, and soldier. And so I'm going to basically um, create a RPG attachment that just attaches a name and a class to an NFT. So let's go ahead and do that. So yeah, okay. So to make an attachment. Oh, and by the way, before I actually jump into this example, sorry. Two things. One, if you want to follow along or you want to like do this on your own computer, um, there is this forum post, and I have this Flow CLI installed on my computer. So if you go ahead and install that, you will be able to use like the attachments feature. And two, if you want to learn about attachments through the flip, you can go to this link, and this will teach you all about attachments. And that's where I actually figured out that there was iterations on attachments and stuff like that. But two helpful links. Also, yeah, Andrea, Archerer. I don't. Is it? Yeah, Archerer. Oh wait, is it just? Wait, it's just Archer. I don't know why I put Archerer. Is that even a word? I tried that
Oh,
C3P flow, but I couldn't find it. It didn't work in the main one. Okay. Let me stop stalling. Okay, so let's go back. So let's try and make a RPG character attachment. So let's say we have a pub attachment, RPG character, right? And this is how you define it. Now, when you're making an attachment, you have to specify what they can be attached to or what they're for. So in this case, I can say, you know what, this attachment is for any fungible token or any non-fungible token NFT. So basically, any NFT that implements the NFT standard. Okay, so these can be super generic. I mean, they can be as specific as saying, you know what, it's only for a Doodles NFT, or it can be for any non-fungible token on the whole blockchain. Um, What's important to note also is that each resource or each struct, attachments can be for resources or structs. However, in this case, I'm only going to do it for resources, which is denoted by the NFT here. If I had put like a struct here, like example struct, then this would be a struct attachment, but this is a resource attachment. Each resource or struct can only have one attachment, like of its type. So I can only attach one of this certain RPG character for each resource, so I can't attach multiple. And we'll see how that works in a second. So let's say this attachment has a name, and it also has a class, which is a class that I defined right here. And we're going to initialize these things. So just like you do for resources or structs, we have to initialize this attachment for when it gets created and then attached. So just some very basic setup here. Where we're setting the name of the attachment and the class of the attachment equal to the things that we pass in initially. And one thing that's also super cool, by the way, about attachments is you can get a reference to the underlying type. So if I actually make a function here called like get ID, where I want to get the ID of the underlying NFT that this attachment is attached to, we can return base.id. So base, I'll actually show you what base is. If I say let's say let NFT ref equals base, you'll see it actually autofills in the type of it. It's a reference to a non-fungible token.nft. So you can access the fields and functions that are public through this base keyword. Now, it's important to note that like this still abides by all like the access modifiers and access control that are present on like any normal reference. So for example, ID is public, which is why we're able to read it. But if this was like access contract, then we wouldn't be able to read this thing. So it still abides by all the same access modifiers and stuff. Okay. So then we can return base and ID, and this function will actually get the ID of the underlying NFT, right? So super cool. And it's as simple as that. So I created my own attachment. I said we can attach this to any non-fungible token, and boom. Very simple. So let me see if there's any questions. I think Austin is covering them. Thanks a lot, Austin. Boom. Love that. Okay, so let's now walk through a transaction where we actually attach a example RPG character to an example NFT. So for the purposes of this demo, I've defined an example NFT, which is basically just like a very, very basic NFT contract. And I'm gonna number one create or mint one, and then just attach an RPG character to it. So here's a transaction. It may look a little bit complicated, but it's actually just like super set up at the moment. Like it's just for a setup. All it does is it says, okay, does the signer of the transaction have an example NFT collection? If not, just give them an example NFT collection, and then just get a reference to that and store it right here. So it's just setting up the example NFT collection, so nothing to do with attachments yet. So what we can do now is let's go ahead and mint an example NFT so that we can attach something to it. So let's say let NFT, and we're going to say example NFT dot create NFT, and this is just a function I made inside the example NFT contract. And we can pass in a description. So let's go ahead and have a description transaction argument to pass in here. Super cool. And I'm just going to write out the type for you all so it's easy to see what's going on. This is just a resource at the moment. Now, let's go ahead and attach an RPG character to it. So it's important to note also that in order to attach something, you have to have the actual resource. You can't have like a reference, for example. You have to have the full resource. So let's then say let RPG NFT, and this is how you do it. You say attach rpg.rpg character, which is the type of the attachment, right? rpg.rpg character. Boom. And we have to create it. So what are the two things we have to pass in? We have to pass in a name and class. So let's pass in a name, which is a string, and a class, which will pass in like the raw value of the enum. So we'll pass in the name and the class, which is rpg.class, and I think raw value, something like this. This is just how you convert like a number. So for example, 0, 1, 2 to the actual like case warrior archer soldier. All right, to NFT. So it's this long statement. Okay, so you basically say attach the you create the attachment, and attachments can only be created in the same statement that they're being attached. So what I mean by that is, for example, you can't do like something like this. You can't like just create an attachment and then attach it. It has to be created in the same statement that you're attaching it to, and then you use the move operator NFT. You move it into this RPG NFT variable right here. All right, and now we can just simply say self.collection, which is just a reference to our example NFT collection, dot deposit, and we'll move in the RPG NFT. All right, not that bad, right? So we know everything just except for this one line, which is how to attach it. And I will run a transaction. Actually, let me start up my emulator here. Let me deploy my contracts. All right, the demo gods are with me. And if I run this transaction, I ran it with a description of description. The name, I just put Jacob. And for the class, I put 0, which is just going to end up being a warrior. All right. So awesome. Any questions so far before I go on how to like read these attachments? Again, it looks like Austin is doing great in the chat here. Yeah, there's no.
Thank you.
Yes.
Austin does answer this question. I think it would be great to hear your thoughts on it. It's a great question of what's the maximum amount of attachments to one NFT, and could it use daisy chain attachments on top of one another?
Well, what is daisy to? Okay, well, I'll answer the first question. So no, there's no. Yeah, Austin's answer is perfect. Yeah, there's no maximum amount of attachments. It's all storage costs. So, if I own an example NFT in this case, right, and I attach an RPG character to it, I attach a pet, a weapon, infinite amounts of things. It's up to me to store those things, right? Because I'm the one storing the underlying NFT. And these things are going to cost storage, right? Like this name and class cost storage to store. So if I have enough float token to store it, it'll work. But if not, then it's up to me to fix that.
Awesome. And then the daisy chain concept, it's, imagine you've got the NFT originally of an RPG character, you would attach an attachment of, a sword, and then you want to add a sort of a gem or an emerald to that sword as an attachment to the NFT.
Interesting. I may be wrong with this, but no, you can't daisy chain in that sense because you can't attach an attachment to an attachment. But for example, I'll give you this example. So let's say we had an NFT inside of here, right? You can attach an attachment to this. So for example, okay, so this NFT has an attachment which holds an NFT that has an attachment which could hold an NFT that has an attachment. So you could, I guess you could do it in that sense, yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Cheers.
Yeah. It just would be just like a bunch of nested stuff, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so basically yes, daisy chaining is possible in like this case right here, where like this also has an attachment. All right. Also, I should give a shout out to C3Flow here. I think you were the one that had like the attachments example for the Flow Hackathon, and that was super cool, and how I learned a lot of this. So shout out. Okay. So let's get to viewing this attachment, right? So we attach an RPG character to our example NFT. Now, how do we, go ahead and read these things, right? Dre with the meme here. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly my face. So true. Okay, so in this script, we have this collection. So again, this is very boilerplate in that I borrow a public reference to my my example NFT collection, and then I use this borrow auth NFT function. That's usually what I call it, to get a reference to the example NFT, right? And then I'm just returning nil, so there's no errors. But let's now take this NFT that supposedly has an attachment on it and try and read from it. Okay, so let's do that. So what I'm going to say is let RPG character equals NFT, and this is how you access it. So you take the NFT and you use this bracket syntax, and you put the type of the attachment, which so RPG character, right? Now I think if it autofills it, yes. So let me just put the return statement back so there's no errors. You'll notice the type of this is a reference to an RPG character optional. So couple things going on here. One, important to note that again, only one of a certain type of attachment can exist on a resource or struct at a time. So we're accessing it by the type here, right? So again, only one RPG character could possibly exist on this. And we get an optional back because, remember, it's not necessary that this attachment is on this NFT. It might not be. So if there's no attachment on the NFT, we'll get nil here. We'll get nil. But if there is an attachment, which I think there is, right? We just attached one, then it'll give us a reference to an RPG character. So in order to, I love using this thing called optional binding. I think it's like one of the best features in Cadence is we can just put if let like this. And what this will do is say, okay, you know what? If there is an attachment, unwrap it and give us the reference, and we can use that inside this if block. And if there's not an attachment, go to the else statement, okay? So, yeah. So what we can do here is just for fun, we can log the RPG character dot get ID. And what this is doing is, remember, we defined a get ID function on the attachment. So this will print the underlying ID. And I think when we minted this NFT, we'll see in the events it said the ID was 24. So this should be 24, okay? And we can confirm that in a second here. And then we also want to return a test, and test is just a struct I made that has a description, name, and class, where description is coming from the NFT's metadata, and name and class are coming from the attachment metadata. So let's return test, where the description is the NFT.description, because the description lives in the NFT. I think we can actually see that right here. Here's the NFT, and the description lives inside of it. Then next is the name. Now this is just RPG character.name. And then the class is RPG character.class. All right. And then in this else block, we can just return nil, or we don't even have to have this else block. We can just, boom, super easy to read. All right. So let's try and run a script now. The parameters I put in are the address, which is the person who owns the NFT, and the ID, which I think is 24 because that's what the event emitted. So if I enter or run this, we should see that in the logs it logged 24, right? So this worked. Getting using base here to get the underlying ID worked. Love that. Absolutely love that. And then the return was description, Jacob, and we got a class with a raw value of 0, which we know is warrior. So that is exactly how we do that. Boom. Easy. Any questions on reading attachments? And we're nearing the end of my demo, which I think is good timing.
Jacob, I've got a question, not so related to what you just covered, but
Yeah.
if people are listening and they want to try this out themselves, how can they do that?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, Luke. So if you want to try this out yourselves, just go to this link right here, which I think I pasted earlier, but go to this link, and what you do is just copy this into your into your whatever you use your terminal. I just pasted it in like this. Well, my computer is having a heart attack. But if you do that, if you just run this, you'll install the certain flow version, and this will install it on your computer. And you can also read about attachments in this link that I also sent, and just start coding away. Also, the other thing I have as set up is the Flow VS Code extension. I think it's super helpful if you don't have it. It's this one right here. So this is what's giving me like the syntax highlighting and all that, auto completion. Oh, and also, if you liked today, or if I'm of course I'm recording this, but I also have a whole YouTube video on attachments as well, if you want to check that out. And it used a lot of the similar examples that I used today, so it might be helpful to like use both, just if you forget about today.
Do you want to drop that video link in the chat for people to find it, mate, when you get a sec?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah, you have.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom.
Awesome. Any questions anyone has, you can either unmute or you can write it in chat.
And yeah, that concludes. Oh, I guess like one thing I forgot to mention is like removing, right? So I forgot to tell you about removing, but I will show you how to do that really quickly. So inside yeah, like if you want to, like let's just use this example because it's super easy. Because we create an NFT and we then attach the NFT to it. If we want to remove, let's actually go and find that together because someone is forgetting. But I think it's in here somewhere. Hold on. Where is it? Remove. I think it's just remove. It's a lot easier than attaching. Oh yeah, remove. Okay, yeah. So it's literally just remove rpg.rpg character from rpg NFT, just like this. So if you want to remove an attachment, it's actually pretty similar to attaching, but a little bit easier. You just put remove the type of the attachment from the resource, and that'll remove it. Now remember, you have to have the full resource as well. You can't just have a reference. All right, so I will conclude there. And Luke, I'm not sure if you want to pass it to some other team members or if we want to open it to Dev Office Hours, I'll leave that to you. But yeah, I will be here for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacob, for that presentation. Love the artwork. Definitely got a second career as a professional artist if you ever need it. Yeah. So for anyone listening, we're going to have about 5 or 10 minutes of some other topics being covered, and then we'll be doing an open floor office hours. So for the next topic, it's going to be kind of brief, but I just wanted to get it out there anyway. And I'm going to be chipping over to Andrea, where we're going to be asking Andrea for a little bit of an update on the last hackathon, talking a little bit about what's happened since then, and maybe any news on what's to come. Andrea, mate, how you doing?
Hey everyone. Yeah, so I think most of the people here have been involved in the hackathon in some way, shape, or form, but I think it's good to recap. In February, we had the first Flow Hackathon of 2023. It was a pretty intense month because we had 3 phases. The first phase was around education. We had 15 speakers doing webinars, and they're all on our YouTube channel. Then we had the build phase, which ran for a week, but everyone was so was so busy building that by the end of the week, everyone was begging for 2 extra days. So we lengthened the build period to I believe 8 or 9 days, and then we did the judging. We nominated. The judging panel identified, I think, around 20 to 30 winners across all the various prizes. We had also a lot of bounties from different teams, including Floaty. So Austin, props for putting up a bounty for using Floaty's contracts. And I think what's really interesting about the hackathon is I see it as a moment where sparks can fly. And then once those sparks fly, some of those sparks could turn into, some roaring bonfires. And I apologize if the analogy is a little violent, but we should see these hackathons as a great way to experiment, and potentially these experiments could just remain experiments, but in the long term could turn into fully fledged products, businesses, tools. And since the hackathon, I know Alex is here. We've tried to do our best to give a path for those sparks to turn into bonfires, and so we launched the Flow Incubation Pilot. So the Flow Incubation Program, which if Alex wants to chat about it, I will let him. But the TLDR is just a way for projects to get a little extra help, and this includes mentorship and feedback, milestone-based grants, some marketing support from Flowverse, some Cadence contract reviews from Emerald City, and access to Niftery, some credits from QuickNode, and a bunch of other great stuff. And we kicked off the first pilot of this program with 10 projects. So some of the projects, actually, I think most of the projects were all winners, including one that was not an official winner, but was just a really great project. And you can check out, let me link the blog post here for those of you who
I
want to.
actually got it for you, Andrea.
Oh, thank you.
There you go.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. And so yeah, I think it's I'm super excited to see where this goes, and before I talk about what's coming next, Alex, do you want to add anything on the incubation program?
Maybe a little bit. I think you covered a bunch already. So I think the TLDR here really is that as an ecosystem, we're coming together to try to figure out how to turn these fantastic ideas into something that would get closer or inch closer to a sustainable business on Flow, so that we can make sure that we have more and more teams participating full-time in here and more people joining all of our office hours and so on. You mentioned already what kind of services we're providing, who we're working with, so that's been fantastic. I think it's important to also call out that we have 10 teams in the first pilot, covering teams like Certify, DAppZap, the Zapier for Flow, a bunch of other teams like Flow's Got Talent, Heroes of the Flow. You can check them out in the blog post itself. I don't think I can cover all the 10 teams meaningfully here with all the details. But we have games, we have tools, we have services in there, covering a bunch of ecosystem priorities, and it's been fantastic to see those ideas, coming to life throughout the hackathon, and now hopefully taking a more mature shape over the incubation program, and hopefully we can get them to the next stage of their journey, part of this, development. And it's also important to call out, I guess, eligibility, and people might be asking how, future cohorts would look like, how they can participate. We haven't figured out any of that just yet because we're running this as a pilot to really see how things are evolving, what kind of services we might need to add, what kind of structure we need to provide, and all these things. So there will probably be some sort of an evolution coming our way on the program side of things. But generally speaking, the eligibility really is determined by some sort of a team that knows how to work together and can achieve ambitious goals, some working project, familiarity with Flow, and all of that is demonstrated quite nicely throughout the hackathon. So we took that as a chance to look at the hackathon for the first cohort, but in the future, it could be also from other places where we source those kind of teams.
Awesome. Yeah, so I guess the question everyone's thinking of is, okay, what's next, right? Well, I want to keep it mostly a surprise, so I can't share too much, but we are gearing up for a season 2. So stay tuned for that. Start thinking what what cool ideas you want to experiment with, and yeah, it's gonna be sometime in the near future, and more details to follow. So there is going to be another hackathon, and it's going to come soon. I'll leave it at that for now, and you can. I'll let your mind wander.
Thank you, Andrea and Alex, with the guest cameo. I love that. Now, before we open it up to general questions, I wanted to call out something in the Flow Discord that you might have noticed that we haven't formally announced, but we did launch yesterday. It's a new category. If you scroll down, you've got Flow General, you've got Developers category, and then a new category called Flow Network Development. And if you go there, you'll see there's a Read and First channel, and then there's a channel called Cadence Builders. And this is part of the core team's fits to increase transparency and to truly build in public. And we explain this in text, but I also wanted to quickly touch on it because I think it's really exciting. What you're going to see is more channels over time get added to this section. There won't be a lot of them, there'll just be a few here and there. But the idea is that rather than the Flow core team having discussions about developing and building out Cadence in a private Slack channel, instead they're going to have it open in public in Discord. And so I want to pass it over to Bastian to touch on it a little bit more in terms of what you can expect in there. But do keep an eye out as more channels will slowly get added as we make this effort to increase transparency to a level that I don't think I've seen anywhere else in Web3. But go on, Bastian, if you want to touch on it for a second.
Yeah, I think Luke, you already described it pretty well. So we used to have a lot of discussions internal in Slack, in the team, in the core team. There's absolutely no reason why these discussions shouldn't be in the open. So now we're moving them over to Discord. The first one is that Cadence Builders channel, which is pretty much exactly sort of the discussions that we have in the team. If you're interested in contributing, have a look. We're pretty much discussing day-to-day kind of development work. So if you maybe find that overwhelming, it's maybe not the right place for you. But if you are interested in seeing what we are working on, and if you want to even contribute, please join. And there are increasingly more contributors, which is amazing. We're also planning to put out more developer grants. So if you're interested in contributing that way, that's also very welcome. If you have any suggestions or bug reports, please post them also there if you have them, and we can discuss them. It also allows us to maybe use, for example, the voice chat that we have here to hang out more, and even maybe like pair up on work that you're doing for Cadence specifically. But yeah, like Luke mentioned, the plan is to also do that for the other parts like developer experience, working on tooling, and protocol team working on the core protocol. So expect there to be more and more. But yeah, this isn't for sort of, if you're just a user of Cadence, there's still the developer channel and the developer forums. If you have questions, you'll still hang out there and answer all your questions and help you there when building your dApp. That's all I have. Any questions or any feedback? No, then I think I'll hand it back to Luke.
Awesome. Yeah, as Bastian said, please, for general, if you're building a dApp or you have questions about, say, attachments and stuff like that, do stick to the developer forums or this office hours as it occurs regularly. But if you want to see the Cadence teams working on other teams that start adding channels there, by all means, do jump in and ask some questions about it. But please keep in mind that this is a bit of a test case, a bit of an experiment into it. So please have some patience as we set it up. If there are questions, you can write them in the chat, or even ask in the Cadence Builders channel if you need. I think that's about it for now, and we're going to pass it over to just general questions. So for everyone who's listening, if you have a question, like people have been doing already, you can put it in the Developer Office Hours voice chat text channel. So just in case you're not aware, if you scroll over where you see the Developer Office Hours voice chat, there'll be a little open chat bubble icon that pops up, and you click that, and then you can type in your question. Then as well, you can also just unmute and ask your question, but keep in mind that if people are speaking, maybe wait for them to finish. So any general questions, please go for it. One thing I'll say before I kind of wrap up and shut up, we will be doing these regularly. Jacob's going to be leading the charge. It's going to be very community driven. I said this at the start, but I'll repeat it again for anyone who missed it. If you can, or if you want to present a topic, we encourage it. We welcome it. Feel free to reach out to myself or Jacob Tucker and just be like, this is what I want to talk about. When's a good time? And let's figure it out. Likewise, we're going to be doing these regularly. We're going to do at least another one next week. And then we're going to see, potentially we're going to do them every week or every other week. We're trying to figure it out still based on what makes the most sense. But we're really excited to kick this off. Jacob has recorded it as well, and we'll be sharing that totally to his YouTube. We'll post that in the Discord after the fact. But from now, I'm going to be quiet. Any questions, ask away. Jacob, there is an attachment questions in chat. And yeah, Paradox, if you want to ask, go for it. But I'll just quickly read out C3P Flow's question, Jacob, for you to jump in on. Are there any thoughts on how metadata resolvers should work if the attached resource is meant to augment the base resource?
Curious to hear Austin's thoughts on this. I honestly don't know. I'd have to think about that for a second.
Probably you can only resolve metadata on attachments that you expect. So in Jacob's example, the NFT that has an RPG character attached to it should know if that's what its application was built for. But otherwise, I think it's unlikely that you would generically resolve any attachment in metadata. It's very application specific what you would choose to expose.
Awesome. Paradox, if you had a question, by all means, feel free to hit unmute and ask away. Don't know if you're talking, Paradox, but we can't. Yep, you can type it away. Type the question up and I'll read it out. Deet has added on, for anyone who missed it, Deet has added on that there are proposals for stable cadence that would allow iterating over attachments and using reflection to find metadata. I love reading these texts because I definitely don't understand what they're on about, but it's nice to sound smart for a change.
Yeah, for anyone with questions, yeah, you can type it or unmute your mic. It's whatever you want. There's no like specific ordering. We're just gonna tackle any questions that come in.
Indeed, on that point, would that mean that you're anticipating you call, NFT.resolve view and that somehow exposes attachments metadata views? Or are you
No.
thinking you know that there are attachments and you decide to resolve them explicitly?
Exactly. So if you were like in Floaty's case, you could decide either to show attachments or not, or you could maybe have a drop down that shows attachments. And then you'd iterate it over all of the attachments on that resource, see which ones have a metadata view, and then you could display those in the UI.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so to Luca's question here, are events being emitted when attaching/detaching? Sorry, oh yeah, no worries. Yes, so because attachments have like an init function and a destroy function, which gets run when they're detached, you can emit events inside those areas to know if something has happened like that. Yeah. Exactly.
Whilst
C3 yeah.
Whilst waiting for a couple of the questions I see being typed, Jacob, I'm curious, when will this recording be ready to be shared?
As soon as this is over. I'm basically like live streaming it right now, so as soon as we wrap this up, I'll share the link with everybody.
Pressure. Nice. Yeah, Paradox, mate. Feel free to unmute and ask the question.
I see a question from earlier. Will Dapper Wallet support openness for users to attach community authored attachments to their resources? I don't think that's a question I can answer. I might have to pass it off to someone else who can answer that.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. So TBD, right? So Dapper Wallet wants to support everything it can legally. And there are also going to be limits on what they can actually sort of block because of the way that the chain works. But generally, Dapper wants to avoid any mechanism whereby they might be seen legally to be in control of money-like assets. Because then they come under a bunch of regulatory authority. And so if attachments are just metadata and whatnot, then they'll probably be 100% okay with it. They might have to be more careful if those attachments look like or contain something that looks like a financial asset.
Right, we've got a few minutes left if there's any final questions, but as we're waiting for that, Jacob, are we thinking same time next week?
Yeah, I think we'll do same time next week. I don't yet have an idea for what I want to present yet, but I will think of something, and yeah, I'm excited for it. This was great. But yeah, we still got a couple minutes in case anyone wants to ask.
For sure, for sure. I don't know why people have mic suppressed issues, but if you are, try leaving and rejoining. It should work.
Are there any other blockers besides the trolling attack to get attachments out? Is this like a stable cadence thing that we're waiting for I think. I don't know if there's been an update to that or not.
Yeah, that's mostly the last remaining thing. I think the feature itself is already merged, and also there was a question regarding the iteration feature. That as well. Daniel is working on the both the Flip that proposed the feature and the implementation, and he held off with the iteration feature because of that other kind of. It's not like a blocker, but when you currently iterate over the attachments, we could add that, but all you would get is like kind of like the well, it is some attachment. Like you wouldn't be able to know exactly what particular attachment it is, if that makes any sense. So it wouldn't be very useful. So there's another flip open to improve that and allow you to downcast to the concrete attachment type, for example. So we have the iteration feature. It's not really useful, and then in stable cadence, when the downcasting functionality is improved, it will be actually really useful, and you can do the things you want to do. So there are two parts, right? Like one is the attachment trolling is more like a blocker, and the other one is more like a UX blocker in a sense, but I'm not sure if you can call it a blocker.
It makes sense. Yeah, it's not very helpful to get like an INFT resource interface.
Exactly.
There's not really anything you can do to it. So I'm assuming attachments have the same issue for iteration.
Yeah, so this maybe not the same problem, but if you think about it, we have like the NFT collection, and you might have an NFT collection that stores multiple different NFTs. Not all of them are of the same kind, and you would want to iterate over them. You have pretty much the same problem. Like you know that there is some NFT, like an INFT. Well, you can't really do anything with that interface. Like you would want to know exactly and downcast, oh, this, I don't know, NFT is a Top Shot moment, and this one is like a, I don't know, some other totally unrelated NFT. So yeah, like in stable cadence, that's gonna be much easier and more helpful and useful.
Any final questions in the last couple of minutes here? And it doesn't, just to be clear, I know we talked a lot about attachments, but it can be on any topic you want when it comes to building on Flow.
I'm also gonna after we hit the time mark here, I'm gonna stop the recording, and I'm gonna stick around afterwards in case anyone has any developer questions and they're just too shy to either share on recording or in front of everybody. So I will stick around afterwards just for anyone that wants to continue asking questions. I'm not sure. Ask Luke.
Jeez, man, I don't know. Maybe a pebble. I don't know about a whole stone. Jokes aside, what I will say, as we're wrapping up here, is a big shout out to Jacob Tucker for reaching out with this idea to bring back an office hours, but make it community run, developer focused. Big fan of that. And yes, I see Deep's comment in chat. We didn't get a question from Paradox. I think he was having mic issues. Paradox, mate. Oh, is that you?
Yeah, hi. Does it work?
Oh, awesome.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good because I try from MacBook, but it don't work. Okay, I have a problem with blockchain. I had a wallet in Alico.
Yes.
Yeah, and I have wallet and probably 6 months, 7 months, and use it, deposit, and in 1 week before, it's 1 week ago, I tried to withdrawal, and it's don't work. I don't see my balance. I try to recover from my seed phrase, and it's recovered another wallet. And then I asked some guys, some tech guys in support in Discord, and they said it's okay. Some wallet can have one trust can have some public wallets. It's how it works. And now I don't get my money because when I recover, it's recover another wallet, and any new my attempt is new wallet, and I just generate new wallet from my seed phrase. How it work?
Yeah, sorry to hear about that, Paradox. I think have you been in contact with the Lilyco support team? I think I might be able to put you in contact with the creator of it, and it might be better answered there.
Okay. Which what I have to do?
I will reach out to you after this office hours. Since this is more like developer focused, I think this will probably be better if I just refer you to the Lilycode team so they can help you with this sort of issue.
Okay, but it's a problem with Lico team, with Lico, not with Flow. You mean?
Oh, sorry.
You mean that it's problem with Lico team, Lico product, not with Flow
Yes,
blockchain?
that's my initial thought. But I will help you figure this out after the session's over.
Maybe to quickly jump in, but I think the maybe to point out, and there's a lot of people here maybe have built more on Flow, and some might be newer, but like one core difference from like other blockchains is that I think what you're describing is that you have one seed phrase, which is like, private key or can generate multiple private keys. And when that is not one-to-one with one account on Flow. Like on other blockchains, like there's a one-to-one mapping between if you have your key, there is an associated account with that. On Flow, you can have multiple accounts and they all can have that key, for example. So I think your problem is like every time you're recovering, you're actually creating yet another Flow account, which is of course empty.
Yeah.
And I think what you really want to do is get access to that old account, which you still have somewhere. So just wanted to point out that sort of architectural difference, which is kind of nice because if you ever have an account and it gets compromised, like you can just swap out the keys and things like that. So it's like a little bit better from the user experience point, but on the other hand, also like it might be confusing if you're coming from somewhere else where you have this re-import of the seed phrase and you get back to that account and there is no kind of multiple accounts confusion. But yeah, I think we can help you with the recovery there.
Okay, maybe you can give some next step where send message or
Sure.
which guy.
Yeah, I'll do that for you.
Thank you, Jacob,
Okay.
and appreciate your understanding their paradox. And sorry to hear about a frustrating situation, but that's what the benefit of these situations are. In the office hours, we can talk out on chat and find you the right person to help. So Jacob will assist with that. Jacob, if you have any issues, feel free to let me know. For everyone else, we're gonna, quote unquote, officially wrap up now. But Jacob will still be hanging around. I'm sure some of the Flow team will be as well. And if you ever have questions, you're welcome to drop them into the developers forum, and someone will be quick to answer. Big shout out to Jacob Tucker. Already gave him plenty of credit, so I won't repeat it. Also want to shout out to Bastian, Andrea,